day 25 of my yoga challenge, and probably the most exciting day because I'm going to be teaching you a pose that I get asked for mostly. People always want to know, Nat, how do you do a headstand? How is it that your feet look as if they can float into the air? And I'm going to teach you the way that I was taught, the way that I taught myself. And I'm going to tell you right now that this takes a long time. It actually took me years. I mean, it took me a good 3 years of practicing this every day to be able to actually get that feet floating effect. And when I did, I was, the happiest. I did the happy dance every time I did it for about another year because I just couldn't believe it. So you might have seen people practicing yoga and they come into a headstand, their feet just seem to float in the air. For years I thought that my legs were too heavy, which of course they're not. It's nothing to do with my legs, it's all to do with my core strength, my shoulder stability and the law of gravity. What I used to do was come into a headstand, and you may have tried this yourself. I've come in, haven't really thought about the foundations too much, and people kind of throw themselves up like this a lot, and that's when your legs feel heavy because you haven't got that kind of gravitational pull. You haven't started from the base up, and that's what you have to do with your headstand. It's not about your legs, it's actually from here, from the top of your head all the way down. So I want you to come with your mat like this towards the wall. You can practice this as long as you've got a good amount of core strength. If you've never done any type of yoga before, if you've not done my last 24 days and I've been practicing, I wouldn't look at this just now, I would go back and start up. For example, yesterday we were doing dolphin pose, which is going to give you that strength and stability in that kind of tripod area of your hands. So what I want you to do is, once you've got your mat here, is take your hand right up against the wall, and this spot here, so the length of your own hand, is where your hands are then going to be placed. So that's exactly the way that your body should be. Don't be too far away from the wall. And you might think to yourself, oh, it's very close. It's very close for a reason, which I'm going to show you. So once you've got your hand measured, you're then going to take your hands into the same position that you had yesterday for dolphin pose. Now, if you missed that yesterday, all I want you to do is make sure that you can grasp right round the outside of your biceps. You're not just touching your hands. This is what I used to do. I used to have my hands like this and think I'm ready for a headstand, and I wasn't, and that's why I used to fall all the time. What you need to have is your hands like this. So you need to be really closely, tightly pulled in. So it's not a huge amount of, you think the wider your arms would be, the more likely you were to kind of be stable, but actually the wider your elbows are, the more likely you are to fall. So if you're practicing this right now and you're a little bit wobbly, it's probably because your elbows are too wide apart. Okay, so we've got our elbows nicely placed, and again I want you to keep your thumbs squeezing together, palms squeezing together, interlace your fingers. Now if I place my hands down onto the mat like this, you can see that there's a little space here for me to put my finger under. And what I want to do to get that good steady foundation is to tuck the hands under so that I can press down into the whole part of the forearms. Now I know this might sound a little bit pernickety, but this is what's going to help you to get up there and stay there. This is exactly what helped me. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm turning on all of the muscles in my arms. And if you look down to what you've created right now, you've almost created it, well, you've got a little triangular shape, but what you've created is a little nest for your head to sit on. So what I used to think in headstand was that my head was on the floor, but actually my head isn't on the floor, my head is placed into this little nest that I've created in here. So it's really strong. I'm going to tuck my head in and place my head into that little spot there. Okay. So you can do that, you can just tuck your hands under, tuck your head under, place your head in there for now, and if your head is touching the floor, you've probably opened your hands up like a basket. You need to squeeze them really tight, and whilst you're up there in your headstand, you're going to need to squeeze your fingers as tight as they'll go. It's like white knuckle ride, your knuckles will go white that they're squeezing so tightly. And this is the part, most of the time when you see someone in a headstand, you won't see any of this going on, but they know what's going on because they know that that's their structure, that's their foundations, okay? So once you've got the head in and you're quite comfortable, you can walk the knees back a little bit, and what I want you to do is, just as you did in your dolphin pose, is press up really nice and high into the shoulders. So
So the shoulders are away from the ears. And again, once you get that, I would just take it a couple of breaths and hold that here and see how that feels. Because when you come up and your whole body weight is then above your head and you sink in, you're really going to hurt into the neck, you're going to hurt into the head, and it's just really not good for you. You don't want to be putting that pressure on your head. You want to keep the pressure in the forearms and in the elbows. Okay, so once you've got that tucked, I want you to then press into the shoulders, and you're going to start to then lift up into the feet, the hips, and you're just going to walk your feet in a little bit closer towards you. Now once you keep walking, you're going to just walk back down again. And what you'll find is that because you have the wall so close behind you, what you're aiming to do is press your hips as if they were coming to touch the wall. So you know that you're close enough to the wall that you're never going to fall back. It's never going to turn into a roly-poly, which mine turned into a million times. The amount of times that I fell out of headstands because I didn't have myself next to the wall. It's just silly and you're going to hurt yourself. So make sure again that you've just got that hand space, and all you're going to practice for a little while, and I mean quite a little while, is walking the feet in as if the hips were going to touch the wall. Now what you're trying to get here is that point of gravity where the feet will then lift. And that's how you're going to lift into your headstand without doing all of that jumping in, jumping in, jumping in. And as I say, it took me years to do this. Don't think that you're going to try it first time and get it, because it probably won't happen. If it does, do the happy dance and let me know. But what you're going to do is once you've got that kind of feeling and you're used to that feeling of the feet lifting by themselves, it's because you've lined up your hips and your elbows and your shoulders really nicely. You are working with gravity. It's actually nothing to do with your legs. The legs are going to lift because that's the way that your body's going. But of course you want to then get a little bit of strength into the legs. So the next time you get that lift, I want you to start to point through the toes, squeeze the legs together, almost as if you're getting that kind of internal rotation of the knees coming in towards each other. And just keep practicing coming up halfway, coming back down. You might fall and hit the wall, that's fine. All you'll do is push your butt off the wall to get back again. And it's just all about practice. This is why we call it a yoga practice. It doesn't just happen overnight, it takes a long time. But I hope that this is going to help those of you who are maybe looking into a headstand and think, how is it that people's feet float? These dimensions, what I just showed you, walking the feet in, feeling what it's like to get the hips right above the shoulders, is what just kind of gave me that light bulb moment. And since then I've been so confident with my headstands, I just absolutely love it. Eventually your headstands will become a calming space. You can come and just rest there and breathe as deeply as you can. I always aim to get 30 deep breaths in my headstand. Sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes it does. Again, you just go with what feels best with your body. So one last chance, let's come in. Elbows are nice and tight, toes are tucked under, head is in, lifting up into the hips, getting the shoulders away from the ears, pressing down into the elbows, pressing right down into the forearms. Just walk the feet in, walk the feet in. And once they're about to lift, bring your feet together, and you're going to lift and hold here. So you can see that my rib cage has started to splay. I really want to work into the core muscles, pull the core in, and then eventually you're going to start to lift. Slowly does it. Keep pressing down into those elbows until you come all the way up into a nice strong headstand. Now the feeling that you should have once you get up into this headstand is the hips pressing forwards. It's like your shoulder stand that you did a few days ago. Legs are working, toes are pointing up, and then again you're going to tip the hips backwards towards the wall to slowly lower yourself back down again. You can come and stop halfway, and then you can slowly bring the toes to the ground. And the best position after your headstand is always child's pose. I like to have the head give a little roll from side to side. And as always, using the hands to press you up. Remembering that your head has been below your heart for a little while, so you could get a little bit dizzy. You're going to get that rush
of blood to the head. There's nothing else quite like it. So please let me know if this helps, guys. I really hope it does, because there is nothing better than getting into a headstand and feeling confident. It's just the best.